In diagnostic analytics, we're often interested in seeing the relationships between two variables. We're always trying to look for relationships between things. In this case, we're going to look for the relationship between R&D expenditures and sales revenue. We're going to use ChatGPT to do so. So let's go ahead and start a new chat. We can either just click here or type in the word start a new chat. And the next thing we're going to do is bring in the data. And so perhaps you've already used that data and looked at it. Certainly we could open it up and take a look. I like to usually ask to see some summary of that data. So this is kind of what this looks like, but I like usually seeing the last 5 lines of the data and seeing what was in there. Usually like to see if everything is in there that I expected and that the data set is there, and then I'll know, right? And so here it's providing the last 5 lines of data. We can see what the data set looks like. It looks like it has R&D expenditures and revenues, and it looks like it's month by month over this period of time. So we're able to see what that looks like. The first thing we're asked to do is ask it to create a scatter plot. Okay, and usually we'd like to set this up as we would in a regression, or say, okay, does revenues depend on R&D expenditures, or does R&D expenditures depend on revenues? At least in this case, we're saying R&D revenues will create new products, and new products will hopefully create new revenues. And so we're going to put on the x-axis, remember y equals f of x. So y is revenues, and it's a function of R&D expenditures. At least that's what we expect. So I've asked it to create a scatter plot, and so we're able to see that relationship in there. You'll see that we'll see what this looks like over time. Okay, so here's that scatter plot, and even though the data was read in as time, that's not how we're doing it. We're not looking at the relationship over time. We're trying to look at the relationship of R&D expenditures as it relates to revenues. You know, you'll see here it shows that. I usually like it to be shown directly on there, but it looks like a positive relationship, and we can see what that looks like. We could go and calculate a correlation and see what that looks like specifically. Now I'm going to ask it to provide a trend line. Now trends are often saying, hey, what does this look like over time? But what we're trying to see is kind of what is the relationship, like how many dollars of R&D turn into how many dollars of revenue. And so let's go ahead and insert a trend line, and we're going to ask it to provide a regression equation. That's just a fancy way of saying we want to see what the relationship it is with each other. And so we're going to look at this regression and see and insert a scatter plot. Okay, so here's the scatter plot included in here, and we can see what this looks like. It's the same data as before, but you'll notice, now R&D expenditures and revenues are in there. But what we're saying is, for every dollar of R&D expenditures, it will turn into $9 of revenue. That is the slope. So each additional dollar spent on R&D is associated with about $9.28 more in revenue. And so we can see what that looks like. Well, here's a number of other statistics. Oftentimes we want to know how much of the variation, how good this model is. And it looks like it can explain 47%, and the model is significant. And so we're going to look at that. Now, I'm looking forward to the period ahead and said, hey, if I spent, looks like $5 million on R&D, what could I expect the total sales to be? So I take this $5 million and actually multiply it by this 928 and add the intercept, like even if R&D is 0, how much does that turn into? But we're going to go ahead and ask it to input that and show that there. Okay, so using this equation, it looks like, hey, if we plugged in $5 million to that 9.28 and then added the intercept, the y-intercept, we'd have revenues of about $53.8 million. So there's a number of other things we can do. This is a point estimate. It's a forecast. It's saying, hey, there's plenty of uncertainty here, but here is a prediction that could be used. As we finish up this lab, we want to be able to report this somehow. and we're trying to figure out the best way to show it. And in this case, we're going to output the scatter plot with the trend line and name it something specific. And so let's go ahead and do that. We're also going to ask it to display the regression results. So let's go ahead and provide that. I didn't really specify how I want this one. I specified as a PNG file, but here it doesn't look like I've specified, which means it's going to kind of guess what I'd like to see. Most of the regression results are text, and so my guess is it would just be a Word file. And so let's just look and see what it does. But I could certainly specify that or ask it to be a picture, a JPEG or a .png file would all be possibilities. Okay, so it looks like it output this one, and I could download that file and that would show up there. And maybe we'll look at all of these in the download when we're done. Here's the regression results. Now, it looks like it has produced a PNG file, so this is going to be in a picture, and so we can go and look at that. I could have asked it to be a Word file or even gone to Excel. And the last thing I want to do, and usually I try to do this in every single one, is I wanted to output the prompts so I can see what was added, how I did it, what I provided it. Maybe I want to go recreate it, maybe I want to tweak it a little bit and change it up, but I want to go take a look at that. And so I can see what that might look like. So it looks like here are the prompts. Here is the Word doc and able to provide that. And I can quickly go and look and see, and it looks like, hey, here is the results that have been provided. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, and it's now going to include the prompts. Okay, so it looks like it's now there. So that completes this lab.